Hi, my name is Dale Marshfield and I'll be your online instructor for the course BIB 557, Exposition of the Book of Hebrews. I've been teaching for ABTS for about 10 years and have served on their operations committee for just about the same length of time. I really enjoy the opportunity to be involved in this great ministry. My family lived in South Africa for 26 years. We were involved there in a ministry of church planting and leadership development. I really enjoyed being able to teach students in the Bible College and then work with them in the ministries that we had around the city of Durban planting churches. We'll spend the next 16 weeks looking at the letter to the so-called letter to the Hebrews. And I say so-called because if you're even casually familiar with New Testament letters, you will notice that the letter to Hebrews is very different. It's actually more of a sermon than a letter. I think you'll get the most out of the course if you stay with this course schedule. Just follow through and do your work in accordance with that schedule. I don't want to be inflexible, so if there's a problem, if you need to take a little more time, or if you actually want to move at a faster pace, just drop me an email and we'll talk about that and see what we can work out. It's going to be very important for you to read the announcements in this course. I'll say things to you about the assignments, try to give you some help. They're going to come out periodically, and so just check on those. They should come into your inbox and your email. If you have any questions about anything, just shoot me off an email. I'd prefer that you didn't message me within Moodle, but rather just use your email and send me an email. You'll see my email address in the course, djmarshfield@gmail.com, so you shouldn't have a problem with that. Most of the learning that you will experience in this course will happen through the reading and reflection you do in the textbooks. They're very important, so I want you to read them with pen and paper or with computer and take notes as you go through them. That will be supplemented by the videos that are in Moodle that you're required to watch in each module. And of course, a very important part of the learning experience will be the peer interaction you have in the discussion forums. Okay, let's get started and think a little bit about the book of Hebrews. Alexander the Great was a profoundly effective military leader. There are many factors that contributed to his success, but probably one of the most important was his ability to maintain the morale of his troops. This was no small feat, given the fact that his march across Asia to the Indus River took 8 years. The way that he maintained the morale of his troops was to lead from the front. In the early days of his campaign in Asia, he would lead the charge into battle. Can you imagine the inspiration that his troops drew from seeing their leader share in the dangers they faced and participate in their risks? As long as Alexander led as a fellow warrior, his troops followed him with intense loyalty. But when he adopted the practices of the kings that he had conquered and led the battle from a distant hill like a godlike sovereign, the morale of his troops began to decline. Eventually, they refused to push his eastward expansion any further. They would not persevere under such deprivation for a leader who was not willing to share their suffering. Like Alexander's army, Christians are on a march through hostile territory. Hebrews 11:10 says that we're journeying toward a city whose builder and architect is God. Along the way, it's easy to get discouraged and to lose sight of our goal. As it says in Hebrews, we need to persevere so that when we have done the will of God, we might receive what he has promised. But what can fuel that kind of perseverance when believers are facing such overwhelming difficulty? The answer is Jesus. He understands and participated. He shared in our suffering. To find the courage that we need to persevere, we need to heed the admonition of Hebrews 3:1 and fix our thoughts on Jesus. Hebrews chapter 2 and verse 14 reminds us that he shared our humanity. Jesus was not a stranger to the classroom of suffering. Even though he was the Son of God, Hebrews 5:8 says that he learned obedience through the things that he suffered. How did he persevere on his journey? Hebrews chapter 12 and verse 2 says that he kept his eye on the joy that was set before him. That's the promise of the Father, not the shame that was heaped upon him by society. The truth is, no one has suffered on this journey more than our leader, Jesus. And that's why Hebrews chapter 12 and verse 13 says, "Consider him who endured such opposition from sinful men, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart." Unlike Alexander the Great, Jesus the brother, that's what Hebrews chapter 2 and verse 11 calls him, Jesus the brother walked every step of the march that he's asking us to take. He faced the dangers, dealt with the disappointments, drew courage in the face of death and suffering from his relationship with the Father. Hebrews 5:7 says that when he suffered, he prayed and he was heard. He did all of this as a human being, someone like us. That's what we're reminded in Hebrews 2:14 and chapter 4, verses 15 and 16. Though he was God, he chose to live on this earth as within the limitations of his humanity. And so when he faced trouble and when he faced suffering, he turned to the resources that every human being has: prayer, faith in his Father, the power of the Holy Spirit. And through these he prevailed and he succeeded. And now he asks us to follow him in the same path, for the same reasons, using the same resources that he used in order to do the will of his Father and eventually inherit that which was promised to him by the Father. This is what the book of Hebrews is all about.